Throw that monster back, huh? Damn. He said, I'm out here slamming monsters.
I knew you liked cherry lime. I was gonna grab you a Dr. Pepper, but I'm like...
You never had one of these? You know how you have all your toes straight like this?
Yeah.
See, when you drink it, they go like this.
Yeah, I never had it like that. Well, I have, but not with a drink.
Oh, you nasty ass bastard!
Carbonated sweet tea, huh?
Man, I almost made holes in my shoes when my toes went. Nah.
And I looked like... Yesterday was so hot, dog. I just grabbed a water bottle.
And just poured it on you? Oh, yeah, I did that in the trailer one day.
Yeah, dude.
And it almost jacked myself up.
Yeah, dude, they said it cause a stroke, dog. I just don't want to be dependent, dog. That's my...
You can't wipe. I can't wipe with my left hand. That's what scares me.
I wipe with my left. I don't wipe with my right.
You wipe with your left hand?
Yeah, I wipe with my left.
What the hell? Why?
I don't know why I can't reach.
What's going on? What's going on, late night family? We back in the building, coming to bring you another exciting episode of Late Night Conversations with Uncle Nephew. I am your host, King J, also known as Nephew, and to my left is my co-host,
JR, Big Unc.
What's up, Big Unc? Hot as hell, ain't it?
Texas is hot right now. I'm telling you, people.
It's hot in my house.
You ain't living in Texas right now? Yeah, your house is hot right now.
My house is hot, dog.
This room is hot.
And that's because I just got like a $400 electricity bill. Man. So
I seen on my not my For You page, but on my Facebook, a friend of mine from like Clarendon, where anybody want to trade light bills? $1,004 was her light bill, and there wasn't no back. And it's not like if they had a past due. It was $1,004. I'm like, yeah, you either got a big house or you're leaving all your windows open and your air conditioner at the same time. It's just working nonstop.
1,000?
Yeah.
God damn. Yeah, if y'all here in Texas, y'all know this heat beating us down right now. It's beating our back in.
Well, we feel the heat. We don't feel the sun. You know, we don't have because we work inside. We work in the warehouse. But I can feel that heat, man.
Dude, this is rough, hot, man. It's rough, man.
Makes you not want to work, man. It just makes you just...
It makes you lazy, don't it? Pour a water bottle on your head and catch a stroke or something.
Man.
Nah. Man, I got an exciting episode planned for you tonight.
Man, you said, dog.
I got an exciting episode planned for y'all tonight, man. It's going to be so dope. If y'all are afraid of the supernatural, devil, spiritual, this might not be an episode. This is going to be a little...
Okay.
We're going to dive into some scary... Oh, yeah.
Is that deep?
Dog.
All right.
Oh, man.
Don't promise me something that ain't deep.
Keep that thought, and at the end of this story, tell me what you think.
All right, I'll tell you.
So before we jump into today's story, though, I just want to say thank y'all to all our late night family. We really do appreciate all the love that y'all been showing. Yeah, man, every week y'all show out, so we really do appreciate it. If this is your first time joining the late night family, man, I just want to say thank you so much, and I really hope you enjoy the content. And if you do enjoy the content, do us a big favor and drop a like right there on that like button wherever you're watching your podcast, and give us a follow wherever you get your podcast from, whether it's Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast from. Man, please, we would love it if you just give us a follow. And if the content's great, man, hit that share button. Get us out to all your friends and family.
Right.
And I promise you'll have a good time when you're with Uncle Nephew.
Always.
But especially for the YouTube gang out there, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and punch that bell in the face so you get notified every time we drop a video. And we're dropping every Friday at 8 a.m.
Exactly.
So without further ado, y'all, let's jump into today's story. So today is going to be a creepypasta.
Okay.
So it's going to be a creepypasta, and today's creepypasta is called The Devil's Ritual. The Devil's Ritual.
See me looking at the camera.
Boy, if you don't...
Yeah, this is going to be a wild one, bro.
Okay.
So strap in, dog.
The Devil's Ritual.
The Devil's Ritual.
I know some rituals, but never devils.
I don't know if you've ever done this.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
And this one, oh, man.
Okay, here we go.
Let's jump in.
Woosah.
This is a set of instructions for how to speak with the devil. which if those of you with any sort of brains at all might note, it is a crazy, moronic proposition on the face of it, one likely to culminate in any number of thoroughly unpleasant fates. Honestly, it would probably be smarter to publish your credit card number on Facebook or take up a career in crocodile wrestling. But then, that isn't going to stop you, is it? No, not if you're sincerely interested, at least. Technically, if you do everything just right, there's a fair chance you'll walk away scot-free. And that seemed to be a reason enough for some people to decide that it's a good idea. Especially if you're the fate-tempting, thrill-seeking, scared junkie type. Or the desperate type. Which brings me to a point of clarification I ought to make. This is not a manual for making any kind of crazy bargain, you know, the whole sell your soul type of deal. If you happen to bring it up in conversation, it certainly would be one to refuse. Following through with such a foolhardy bargain, however, would necessitate removing some of the protections that you will put in place for your conversation. And I don't think I need to spell out why that would be a bad idea. If you're really mathematically impaired enough to want to trade something that will last an infinite number of years for something that might last about 90 tops, there are plenty of other rituals out there for you to follow. This one, if performed correctly, should only allow the two of you to talk. This perhaps begs the question of why exactly you would want to speak with the devil in the first place.
Exactly.
Maybe some of you just like the idea of making a small talk with extremely dangerous occult entities. But for the sake of the human race, I hope most of you aren't quite that stupid. The short answer is, he knows things. Things that some of you may have a deep vested interest in finding out. I mean, he's not omniscient or anything. Much as he might like to pretend otherwise, he's not God. But he's definitely got a supernatural advantage over the kind of knowledge any human would be able to attain. For example, he probably wouldn't be able to predict when the next world war would happen or tell you the cure for cancer, but he could very well be able to predict the winning numbers of tomorrow's $500 million Powerball drawing or tell you what deadly, undiagnosed condition might be affecting one of your loved ones. Of course, the Prince of Darkness doesn't just go around giving out winning lottery numbers to just anybody who asks. And trusting any sort of information obtained from a being commonly described as the father of all lies is liable to land you in a worse situation that you were in when you started. However, if you're really dead set on finding something out and you've exhausted all of the options, there is a way to try to get accurate information out of the guy. You see, like so many of the most urban villains in popular culture, the devil has a bit of penchant for games and gambling. Of course, the reason he likes them so much is that he almost always wins.
Right.
Unless you happen to be a fiddler named Johnny, or you are represented by Daniel Webster, you're probably going to get your ass handed to you. But if you're determined enough to want to face the risk and long odds, there's a certain game the two of you could play to try to win the information you need. First things first, though, we'll start off with a description of the summoning process. Then, we'll get into the rules of the game. Some tips for how to play, and finally, of course, the inevitable litany of arcane shit that might go horribly wrong. In order to contact your conversational partner, you'll need to go to a church at midnight. It doesn't matter what kind of church, large or small, old, new, liberal, conservative, just as long as you're sure it'll be empty. The last thing you want is for some preacher to walk in on you while you're in the middle of this, for the sake of the preacher's well-being as much as your own. The process will probably work best if you try it on a new moon or a full moon, or Friday the 13th or Halloween. The actual day is less important than the psychological effect it has on you. As long as you don't try it on Christmas Eve or something stupid like that, you should be fine. The time is important though. You don't have to start or end your ritual exactly at 12 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time or anything, but as general rule of thumb, you ought to show up a bit before midnight and have everything set up by no later than 10 or 15 after. Show up a lot before midnight. If you don't know how you're going to get in, shockingly enough, most houses of God do tend to lock their doors at night. At least if there's no one to watch over them. And remember, we want empty, you know. There are, of course, certain things you must bring and certain things you can't bring. For this ritual, you will need a full can of salt. You won't use all of it, but it's always better to have more than you need than to have less. 7 candles, red or white being preferable. Something to light the candles with. You would be shocked how often people forget this. A cult ritual or not, they aren't going to magically light themselves.
Right.
A length of red string, rope, yarn, or thread. You need a full-length floor or wall mirror. Ideally, you'll want to find one of these already present in the church. They're a bit unwieldy to be lugging around with you during a break-in. However, if there really aren't any there, you'll have to bring your own. You might also find it useful to bring some markers, pencils, paper, a flashlight, and any sort of tools that might be necessary to secure your entrance into the church. You will not be permitted to bring in any electronics or timekeeping devices. This includes all cell phones, smartphones, tablets, e-readers, MP3 players, PDAs, calculators, wristwatches, pocket watches, kitchen timers, hourglass, etc., etc. Seriously, it's worse than the SAT. If you're one of those people that has your smartphone practically wired into your brain, don't worry. You can bring those with you to the church as long as you leave them outside the room in which you will be doing the ritual. If you brought a flashlight, which is helpful for finding your way around without attracting unwanted attention, you need to leave that outside too. Also, don't bring in any sort of religious paraphernalia to protect you, especially if it pertains to the Abrahamic religions. And yes, if those gothy black cross earrings you're wearing are hanging right side up, they count. If you have any kind of holy symbols like that with you, the devil will simply refuse to appear. Don't worry, you're not going in totally unprotected. In fact, most of your supplies are not for any sort of devil summoning ritual, but for your own protection. Old superstitions and folk magic remedies to guard oneself from evil. From what I know of it, the effects mostly based on the power of belief. So there are probably numerous other objects, artifacts, and procedures that could work just as well. If you'd like to risk being left helpless of the mercy of the devil in order to test that theory, feel free to experiment. However, for anyone with a psychotic death wish, I'd recommend sticking to the ritual as it follows. Once you're sure you have all the right supplies with you, make your way into the church and find some place to set up. It can be anywhere from the main sanctuary where services are held to a Sunday school classroom to a walk-in supply closet. As long as you have a sufficient amount of open floor space and are certain not to be disturbed, so you're going to set up your mirror first. This is where the devil will appear. When you summon him, as such, you mustn't complete the summoning until you've laid down certain wards around it. First, surround the mirror with an unbroken circle of salt. If it is hanging on a wall or door, lay down a semicircle around it instead, making sure that the salt touches the wall at both ends. Then wrap your red string around the mirror several times. The color red, especially red string, is a symbolic of protection in the folklore of many cultures and religions. This is also why red candles are a good idea. Speaking of the candles, set them up around the outside of your circle or semicircle of salt, spaced at a relatively even intervals. No, you do not have to get out a measuring tape and align them perfectly, but do at least try to make it look as though if it was not set up by someone old enough to be trusted with matches. Light the candles in a clockwise fashion, being careful not to disturb the salt. If you break the circle, you have to start all over again. Once all the candles are lit and burning strongly, your protective wards are complete. You are now ready to proceed to the actual summoning. To do so, you must first get the devil's attention and demonstrate your resolve by performing some sort of sacrilegious act in the holy space. Turning a crucifix upside down or a cross upside down is fairly conventional, but it's not the only option. For example, I know a kid who once fulfilled this requirement by scribbling obnoxious graffiti all over a painting of Jesus hanging in the Sunday school classroom. The nice thing about turning a cross upside down is that once you're finished with your encounter, assuming you've survived it in one piece, you can just flip it right side back up again, and no one's the wiser, sidestepping the relatively minor but still irritating risk of having your Sunday school turn into a reenactment of the Spanish Inquisition for the next month and a half. After you finish doing whatever offensive thing you decide on, shut all doors to the room and turn off all the lights so that the space is only lit by the candles. Face the mirror and stare deeply into it, concentrating on your desired outcome. There are no incantations, no arcane strings of Latin you have to recite. Just look into the mirror and wish as hard as you can for the devil to appear.
What the fuck?
After a few moments of this, when you feel ready, close your eyes and count to 10, then open. If all has gone correctly, you will no longer see your own reflection. You will be looking at the devil, or at least the way the devil has chosen to appear to you. Chances are he won't look like a conventional red-horned demon with goat legs and a pitchfork, nor any sort of terrible apparition. No point in scaring you off now. Better to lure you in, make you feel safe. To that end, he generally takes on the appearance of a fairly average, nondescript human being. If anything, he's prone to vanity and will lean towards the more attractive end of the spectrum.
Right.
The only real frightening part of him will be his eyes. No matter how hard he tries, he can't hide the sinister gleam smoldering deep within them. The malevolent amusement and hunger, like the eyes of a spider contemplating a fly, struggling in its web. They're supremely confident, those eyes, and without pity, don't look into them too deeply or you'll begin to feel hopeless and paralyzed with dread, losing your hope and your will to fight. Since you'll probably just be standing there staring at him in shock for a few moments, having on some level expected for the ritual to fail, he'll initiate the conversation by asking you what is it you desire from him. If you can gather your wits enough to string a coherent sentence, you should respond with something like, I wish to challenge you in a game of question and response. Even if you don't get the words exactly right, he knows what you mean. And he'll accept your request with a wide, predatory grin of anticipation. He's been playing this game for a long time, you see, and he's very good at it. Most humans, on the other hand, are not. This gives him a chance to, at the very least, thoroughly mess with your mind, and at most, will save you. At very most, will save that for the litany of shit that could go wrong. You'll have to play it very smart to avoid justifying his expectations. See, the general rules to the game are very simple, with a few caveats that can make things more complicated. He'll begin by asking you a question, and he always initiates the game. It can be anything from a piece of obscure trivia to a riddle to an extremely personal inquiry. Don't worry, you won't be immediately plunged into hell if you say the wrong answer or anything like that. As a matter of fact, he won't even tell you whether you got the answer right or wrong. After you answer this question, you get to ask him one in return. Now, here's where the consequences of your response come in. If you answered his last question correctly, he will respond to your question as honestly and accurately as he is able. However, if your question is answered incorrectly, he is free to lie to you as he sees fit. Perhaps if you asked him something you're better off not knowing, he'll tell you the truth about it anyway. More likely, he'll feed the most insidious, damaging lie he can come up with. Either way, after he has responded, he'll ask you another question, and the process will repeat over and over again until you decide to call it quits. Now, you may be sitting there thinking that it sounds fairly easy to get this information you need. All you have to do is wait for a question you can answer correctly, and then take that opportunity to ask him what you really want to know. Ignoring everything else he said, well, it's not that simple. The devil will never give you an easy question, one that you can be completely sure of the answer to. He may instead ask questions that you have some vague knowledge of, that you think maybe you know the answer to but aren't really confident, thus forcing you to endlessly second guess yourself, obsessing over whether or not you can trust the information he gives you next. Right. Perhaps you'll think that what he said was a lie, wish it was a lie, but be internally consumed by doubt, unable to fully convince yourself that you were wrong. Or perhaps you'll have to make a huge choice based on the information that he gives you and be tormented by fear and indecisiveness as you realize that your fate, and perhaps the fate of others as well, rests entirely upon whether or not you were able to correctly recall some arcane piece of trivia that you don't even remember now. You'll never remember the exact questions the devil asked you. By the way, that would make it too easy for you to go back and check your responses. Or maybe, instead of testing your knowledge, he'll ask you something personal, something you lie to even yourself about. You'll answer back to him thinking you've gotten the question correct. No, I don't resent my sister. Yes, I would turn the money into the police, but he'll know better than you do that you're lying, and he'll lie to you in return. And you'll believe him, until you're no longer able to deceive yourself, and then it might be too late. Or maybe he won't even give you a chance to get an accurate response at all.
He's playing with you.
Maybe he'll just ask you an endless string of completely impossible questions, making you more and more frustrated and disheartened as you realize you'll never be able to force him to tell you the truth. Questions like, what was the exact height of Mount Everest in centimeters on the year 1666? Or what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? Although knowing his sense of humor, if he ever asked the latter, he might consider African or European a correct response. There are a couple of ways to short-circuit this particularly strange strategy. However, additional rules and of course of action that make the game more interesting may prevent you from being stonewalled completely. In all honesty though, he probably would prefer to try you one of these options anyways. The first is to ask him a riddle instead of a question. If you somehow manage to stump him and answer the riddle wrong or gives up, he'll be obligated to give you a truthful response to your next question. If he answers the riddle correctly, once again, don't worry, he won't pounce on you like a sphinx or drag you into hell. What will happen is that he will get a pass, allowing him to lie in response to one question he would otherwise be obligated to answer truthfully. Honestly, if he gets a pass, you might as well just give up and quit right there. It's nearly impossible to determine when he's telling you the truth under the best of conditions, adding another layer of complexity by constantly trying to figure out when and if he's used his pass. Man, it's about enough to make any normal person's brain explode. There's no way. Just forget it. The second option is for you to take a dare from him. If you accept it and vow to follow through, then once again, he'll have to answer your next question truthfully. If you choose instead to reject it, he will get another pass. Now, before you freak out and reject that whole idea completely, you should know that he won't ask you to do anything overly dramatic or unspeakably evil like blow up a hospital or murder somebody. As a rule of thumb, most dares won't involve direct loss of life or any major felonies. However, they certainly won't be easy. Inflicting severe pain on yourself, doing something that terrifies the shit out of you, cutting off a treasured relationship, publicly humiliating yourself for someone you love. All of these things and more that you might even be able to imagine are completely on the table. If you're willing to go that far to put yourself in that kind of position, you'll get your answer. However, if he manages to come up with the one thing you know that you simply can't or won't do, well then once again, you might as well just quit. One last thing, don't think you could just tell him you're going to do something and not do it. If you accept the dare and don't follow through with it, well, let's just say there will be consequences. Just suck it up. Keep your promise, no matter what it was. Trust me, you're better off that way. Finally, when you've either gotten the information you wanted or given up on it completely, you may end the ritual by simply thanking the devil for accepting your request, bowing politely at the waist, and bidding him farewell. The surface of the mirror will seem to swim and flicker for a moment, and then you will be looking at your own reflection again. Only when you are absolutely certain that you're looking into your own two eyes may you turn away from the mirror, flick the lights back on, and began dismantling your protections. Now, and this is important, if you haven't gotten the information that you wanted, you must end the ritual in this manner before 66 minutes have elapsed.
Oh, shit.
Well, I suppose that technically you have 66 minutes and 6 seconds. Subtle, right?
Oh.
But if you're seriously going to try to cut it that close without any kind of timekeeping device, you're probably screwed anyway. I cannot emphasize how important it is that you keep this time limit. I'll save the reason behind it for the end, but don't skip ahead. I still have a few important tips on how to play. Be very careful what sort of personal information you give out. Try not to talk about yourself, especially your emotions and problems, any more than absolutely necessary. This guy knows human psychology like the back of his hand, and he will be inside of your head. It's like talking to Hannibal Lecter. Give him enough to work with, and even if you don't believe a single word he says, he will still find ways to mess with your mind like nobody's business. If anything he asks makes you even remotely uncomfortable, do not hesitate to lie through your teeth. There can be plenty of other questions on a similar note. Try to keep the game on track and moving briskly. Unstructured interactions of any kind are to be avoided. Chances are that at some point he will try to draw you off on a tangent, discussing something that fascinates you, analyzing a response you've given him, or finding some other excuse to speak at length without moving the game forward. This is not only a waste of valuable time, but also another excellent opportunity to mess with your mind. If you choose to give him a riddle, use one you've made up yourself. If your riddle has ever been written down anywhere at all, from the pages of The Hobbit to some long-lost tome of ancient magic, he will already know the answer. That said, it still has to be a legitimate riddle, with an answer that makes logical sense from the same angle. You can't just ask something like, what's green, has 10 legs, and hops,
right,
then claim for some inexplicable reason that the answer was marshmallows. Nor can you ask him a straight question like, what have I got in my pocket? Because truthfully, he probably knows that anyway. There are no hard and fast rules to determine whether a riddle makes sense or not, but you're a reasonable human being. Your ancestors ate from the tree of knowledge. You know this, right? Please, for the love of crap, use common sense. If you choose to take a dare, there is a slight chance that the devil will ask you to do something seemingly easy. Deliver a letter, for instance, or scribble a 10-digit number on a public restroom stall. If he does ask you for something like this, and you have even a shred of common decency in you, do not accept. Chances are that he's using you to further some sinister plot, one liable to ruin a lot of lives and harm a lot of people. Who knows, maybe you are the type of person who really doesn't mind throwing an unknown number of total strangers under a bus to find out what you want to know, but at least be aware this is what you are doing. Last but not least, be very aware of the time. It might be helpful to do some practicing beforehand and get a feel for how long an hour is without a watch. The devil will probably put off discussing the things that you're most keen to find out for as long as he can, and as you near the 66-minute deadline, he'll start trying harder and harder to distract you, captivate you, and otherwise keep you playing until it's too late. He'll string you along, feed you little glimmers of false hope, keep you thinking, just a few more minutes, I'm almost there. Don't fall for it. Don't go over the time limit no matter what. Now, you might be thinking that this game really doesn't sound all that dangerous so far.
Right.
Threats of psychological damage rarely seem to carry the same weight as the threats of physical harm, even though their costs are often just as great. Hate to burst your bubble, but this game is far from safe. There are plenty of ways for you to seriously screw yourself over, both physically and mentally, not to mention spiritually. And it is with these that I will conclude, in the vain hope that they may make some sort of impression. First, while you are speaking with the devil, do not let him out of your sight. Keep staring into the mirror no matter what happens. He will undoubtedly try various tricks to make you look away. You will hear noises behind you, feel eyes on the back of your neck, see shadowy phantoms writhing in the depths of the mirror. A cold breath will blow upon from your back, smelling like the crypt. A deep silence will settle, only to be interrupted by a loud smack directly behind your head, giving you about the worst jump scare you've ever had. Hell, the devil may even abandon a measure of his own dignified facade and give a sudden jump of feigned shock, shouting loudly and pointing behind you with a very convincing look of terror on his face. Whatever he might test you with, you must not look away. If you look away, if you lose sight of him completely, even for 1 second, you will look back at the mirror and there will be nobody in there. Well, not gone completely out the mirror, he's in the room with you. Exactly how much of your body the police will find the next morning and what state it's in will depend entirely on the sort of mood he's in. The same thing will occur if you break any of the protections laid down before beginning the ritual, interrupting the circle of salt, letting the red string unwind, knocking over a candle, or letting one go out. Any of these things will free him from the mirror. And then, well, you're all a bunch of creative horror junkies. I'm sure you can fill in the blanks. On a different topic, you may reach a point in the game, probably after a long series of maddeningly impossible questions, where the devil asks you the deceptively simple question, hey, what is your full name? You must not give it to him. Names can be a things of great power. Although the devil will, of course, already know your name, telling it to him yourself is akin to inviting a vampire into your home. Your name is deeply synonymous with your own inner self, thus giving him your name is powerfully symbolic of giving him yourself. If you are foolish enough to make this mistake, all of your protections will be for nothing, and he will seize upon your unwitting offer with malicious glee, stealing away your soul and dragging it back with him into hell.
Damn.
At least this way the police will find a complete identical body. As a matter of fact, your vacant shell will be totally unblemished, seemingly have dropped dead of sheer terror. Then there's the matter of what happens if you go over the time limit. This is arguably the worst you can do. You won't think so at first. The devil will give you no indication that you've exceeded the boundary.
Right.
And you will conclude the ritual as if nothing has gone wrong. Perhaps as the devil's image in the mirror trembles and gives away, you'll see a particularly nasty, triumphant smirk flash across his face. But this will be easily dismissed as your imagination. You'll turn the lights back on, gather your belongings, and go to leave the room. But when you open the door, you'll see nothing. That's right, nothing. Just a flat, white void extending infinitely in all directions. Only the room which was reflected in the mirror will now exist.
What?
Incidentally, if you do turn around to face the mirror again, you may catch a last glimpse of your own reflection. Perhaps it will even turn and favor you with a smirk and a cheeky wave before stepping out of the door into the perfectly normal church hallway. As you may have already figured out, you yourself are no longer in the church at this point. Your soul is now trapped in the mirror, and the devil has taken the liberty of possessing your body. Now that you are no longer using it, pound on the glass and scream all you like. You'll never get out on your own, and no exorcist can help you. But don't worry, it's not like you're in hell, right? At least not necessarily. What you have to understand, see, is that a human soul stripped bare of its flesh is a deeply volatile and vulnerable thing, especially when trapped in the land of the living. You are now an entity of purely mental properties, and as such, the barriers between what is real to you and what is imaginary have been completely dissolved. As you fill that reflected room with your anger, your sorrow, your fear at being trapped, these emotions will begin to coalesce, given form by your mind. If you're not particularly imaginative, these creatures may not be too terrible, may not be able to inflict too much horror and pain. With time, you may even be able to teach yourself to get rid of them. If, however, yours is a mind haunted by monsters, a mind that is vibrantly creative and imaginative and more than usually twisted, well, there's no telling what horrors might come chewing their way out of that maelstrom, tasting sweet release from the confines of your subconscious, hungering for your terror and suffering. They will refuse to be banished, dragging you kicking and screaming into an endless positive feedback loop of pain and fear. Needless to say, if you're a regular patron of websites like this one, you're screwed. There's only one way to find release from the mirror and the world that you've created therein. They say that if you call to the devil once more and ask him to free you, he'll be willing to take you out. For the usual fee, of course. Who knows? Maybe if your imagination is twisted and powerful enough to create a personal hell that leaves you begging for the real thing, these talents might be put to good use. There are over 7 billion people in the world after all. Even the devil himself can't be messing with all their minds at once. Talented help is always appreciated. Of course, the corollary to being trapped inside the mirror is that the devil now gets to do whatever he wants in your body until sunrise. At around that time, your body will mercifully drop dead from the strain of the possession. An autopsy will probably identify the cause as some kind of coronary event. Don't get too relieved, though. He's perfectly capable of stirring up plenty of trouble in these few hours. For instance, he may decide to do something big and dramatic, like purchase a large meat cleaver and go on a murder spree, starting with the names in your address book and working his way down to a complete stranger if he has time. Or perhaps he'll focus on only one person, someone who trusts you completely, using your persona to get him or her alone and vulnerable.
Man.
And then, well, no need to describe it here. Once again, I'm sure you can think of a few things. Starting to see why I called this the worst outcome yet? Of course, there's also a chance that he won't lay a finger on any of your loved ones. Instead, deciding to do something a little more subtle, more insidious, like dropping off a few nondescript, unmarked packages on certain doorsteps in a dangerous part of town, or locating a particularly dusty, aged yellow text in the storeroom of your local library and intentionally misfilling it in the young adult literature section, or whispering 7 very choicey words into the ear of a distracted-looking young redhead waiting for the 3 a.m. subway train. Or maybe he'll decide that in the age of waning superstitions, not enough people are getting interested in his games, and the knowledge of them is in danger of being lost. Maybe he'll decide he needs to get the word out a bit more, do a bit more networking, attract some new suckers, challengers. Maybe he'll take a quick peek at your browser history, see where the impressionable, curious minds are hanging out these days. Maybe he'll even write a quick tutorial in modern parlance, rather than some unscrutable, absolute demonic text. Post it on the internet and see how many bites it gets. Maybe I really shouldn't have gone there, but if you made it this far without Shine, a little twist at the end isn't going to put you off, is it, my dear reader? I'm sure there are plenty of intrepid adventurers among you with burning questions you like answered, and you're all a smart bunch. You know the pitfalls, the conventions. You live and breathe this sort of thing, don't you not? There's no way you'd fall into any of these obvious traps, right? You're not some Dick or Jane off the street, after all. You'd be bringing a whole new level of competition, you would. Oh, excuse me just a moment. I think I hear someone calling for me. What? You want out that badly already? Must be one hell of imagination you got on you. Ha. This is perfect.
Son of a bitch. He was the devil talking the whole time.
He was the one that wrote the tutorial, dog.
That's anxiety and panic attack and bro, let's do it.
The hell no, I ain't doing none of that,
dude. Can you imagine?
Dude, that's crazy.
I don't think anybody's ever beat him.
Nah, bro. I bet. And you know that brings a whole question to me, dog.
How many people have died without us not knowing what had really happened?
If this game were to be real,
right.
It makes you think like. Now you think all these people who have been serial killers, and because I've always had a theory like where they possessed.
Right. Like what?
I'm not saying
made them. Yeah, what made them kill? Like the Green River Killer. What was it? I don't remember how many, 13, whatever.
Yeah.
What possesses you, possess, to kill that many people?
With no motive.
That's what I'm saying. I can see somebody be like, well, I really can't see, but I want to kill somebody. Remember we talked about that before?
Yeah, we've talked about that.
I don't have that urge to kill somebody.
Right. But what gives you the urge?
Yeah.
Right? The people that do have it. Could it be?
Is it because they played a game or they taunted the devil?
Or made a pact with him, gave him the soul, and he was able to possess them to do these heinous acts.
We hear it all the time, the crossroads or whatever.
Right.
But how many have died in prison, been put to death for being a serial killer or a pedophile or whatever, right, and never really gave a reason.
John Wayne Gacy.
He crazy, dog.
Yeah.
He made have talked to people and made you think he
was normal.
Crazy, but
a lot of people, his neighbors said he was a normal dude.
Yeah,
dressed up as a clown for kids' birthday parties.
But when you talk to him,
yeah,
what are like as an FBI agent or a counter-terrorist,
yeah,
people who like what's her name on that movie with I'll Eat Your Liver with the fine Chianti. You talked about earlier.
Oh, Hannibal Lecter. Yeah, Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs. I mean, you got to be so smart. Like you said, you got to ask the right questions. You got to know what to ask. Like if you're going to talk to the devil, you got to know exactly what you're going to ask him.
Exactly.
Like I said, you can't lose. You can't lie to him. You got to make sure that you're not going to know the right answer or not, yes or no. But if you anywhere close, he's going to talk to you correctly. But once you fuck up, it's over, dog.
It's over. And dude, that makes me trip out because why is he the one writing the tutorial? Because at first he's
I
persuading
thought it was somebody, who had already done it before
right?
and survived it, and this is how
to survive it.
But then when you started talking to that, I'm like, I knew it was the devil because the way he started, like you changed up, the storyline changed up towards the end.
Yes,
you could tell immediately it was like,
and then the voice, the infliction. Yeah. It's like you started seeing his true form is revealing.
Yeah, because he's not gonna, he's not gonna be honest with you. He's gonna manipulate you,
and that's the whole purpose of the tutorial. He's just trying to lure more people in because he knows he's throwing it in your face. You see, halfway through the story, he says, "I mean, you have common sense, didn't you? Didn't your people eat from the tree of knowledge?"
Right.
Because he's the one who made him. He's the king of deception. That's wild.
He was the most perfect human.
Angel
ever made until he decided he thought it was better.
Dude,
or he deserved more. And we see that all the time, man. We see that all the time, even in our own work, our own lives.
Right.
Where some of these guys, think that they're that good at their job, or they deserve more. The pride.
And I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been doing a lot of studying, like with the Bible, different things, because
pride is the worst.
I've been so stuck on the war in heaven.
Yeah.
Because most people don't know. They think that when Adam and Eve ate that, the Bible doesn't even say it's an apple. It was just a fruit.
It was fruit, all right.
When they took a bite of that fruit, that wasn't the first sin.
No, but it changed the whole.
It changed the whole.
It gave new meaning to.
It brought forth sin into the world.
Right, but it gave new meaning to. God gives you your own.
The free will.
Free will.
Yeah.
Now they chose that.
Exactly.
Knowing.
So they already had free will.
Right. They had, but it gave it a new meaning. Like, hey, it doesn't really matter to me no more. To me, that's how I think.
That's how you kind of
say. You know what? I mean, we love God, but it doesn't matter because He's going to forgive us or whatever.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, I talked about on one of my podcasts, one of my TikToks. When anger arises,
right,
there's consequences.
Yeah, facts.
Same thing as going against what God had asked. Do not eat from this fruit. Do not eat from this tree.
Right.
Even though we have free will, you have a choice, and you made the wrong choice.
Exactly.
Now it changed life completely forever.
Yes, and see, that's why I'm saying, like, before the fall of man, there was already sin. The first, this is what I'm not saying this is what it is exactly, but to me, the first sin that was ever committed was by Lucifer. Because before he was Satan and the devil, he was Lucifer.
Right.
He was the angel. He was the light bearer.
Yeah, he was
God.
He had
the most perfect angel,
musician, singer, whatever.
The Bible describes his body as pipes and music.
When he talked, it was like music.
He was beautiful, man. And so, the thing is pride is the first sin to ever be committed.
Right.
He wanted to be at the same level as God. And I think it's because he saw that God was going to create man, and he was like, so check this out. When God says, I'm going to make man in our image.
Right.
When he said our image, I think he's talking about himself, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit.
Right.
The Trinity. Right?
Not the Trinity. The Trinity.
The Trinity. So I think Satan saw, wait, you're going to make them like y'all? Hold on, we're powerful.
Right.
They're not even gonna have powers. Like, I'm an angel, I'm a light bearer.
Right, I can do whatever. Yeah.
He got jealous, and then he's like, you know what? I can create like God. If God gave us all this power, why did He limit me?
Right.
And now he starts thinking that he's a slave to God. Now his mentality's changing, and all that happens. And then there's a war in heaven, bro.
Right.
Where a war breaks out, and
because he's got followers God. Too. He's got his followers that he manipulated like he did in that mirror.
And the Bible says he took a third. Because it says that he fell from heaven like lightning.
Lightning, right.
And on his tail, a third of the stars fell with him. A third of the angels, bro. He took a third of the angels, bro. And so that's why this story is so crazy, because he's been the father of deception, man.
Right.
And he knows more than you think he does. Like that's why he said y'all people ate from the fruit. Then they're like he's still harboring resentment against humans.
He throws out little
like little jabs out there,
and we fought for it.
And it's crazy. It's all a part of the scheme, bro. You know, his job is to steal, kill, and destroy us because he hates us, bro.
You know, because he couldn't create what God created.
Exactly.
God created us,
and I have a whole theory on that too.
With speech, with brains,
and free will.
I have a theory on this too, and I heard it from somewhere else, man. Where the cavemen, they had no way of communication.
Oh, I told you about that.
Yeah,
yes, I want to talk about that on a dude.
Another one, okay,
yeah, because that theory's good though, bro. Where they're cavemen.
Yeah,
and
they have no speech. They have no communication skills.
They were Neanderthals, man.
Right.
They were dumb. They didn't know nothing. They were scared of fire.
He didn't know how.
He knew how to. He tried to create. He tried to create like God did.
He didn't know how to put knowledge. He didn't know knowledge.
He couldn't breathe the same breath that God breathed through our nostrils that he could in them.
Right.
Dog, that's crazy, bro.
It is.
And it's, that's why I've been so interested in studying about the war in heaven and stuff, because a lot of people don't know that there was a war in heaven.
Right.
And,
Well, yeah, because anywhere there's strife, it can expand into something out of control.
Yeah, exactly.
Even in families.
Oh yeah,
you see that there's families, there's strife here and there, and next thing you know, I'm watching, I'm reading my Facebook, and these people are, I've seen so many going to jail for family violence.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is towards the elderly parents or aunts or uncles or whatever,
Yeah.
And these are young people, man. Young people are this MacBook, this phone. Like I said, we talked about this plenty of times, nephew.
Yeah.
It manipulates these kids' minds that they feel I want to say unvulnerable,
they feel like untouchable. Like
they have so much that they because they think this is their knowledge when they're not using this.
Yeah. Yeah, they think they're smarter than the old generation. And I get what you're saying.
And
they're entitled. You know what I'm saying?
So they're all entitled right now.
It's because everything is given to them in this microwave fashion. Everything is at their fingertips.
Yeah, since birth. Back in the day, they would say, "Oh, you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth," meaning you were given everything. Your parents, paid. I don't want to say cell phones and stuff because we didn't have that back then.
Right.
But you had the best clothes, and you had a car at an early age. You were given everything you needed, and some of them knew what to do with it, and some were still bad people.
Yeah.
So we used to say that now these kids not being born with a silver spoon in their mouth, they're being born with a freaking phone in their hand.
Yeah.
And it's I don't want to say that, like you said, I don't think they're smarter than we were when we were growing up. They just have more knowledge. Yeah, they have more knowledge because access to knowledge.
Yeah.
But don't know what to do with it.
But common sense isn't there.
That's what I want to say. Yeah, they don't know what to do with what they're learning.
Exactly.
They don't know how to use it. Like you said, common sense.
Yeah, they can look everything up, but can't change the tide. Can't do. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you know what? That's so crazy how that still relates to the story. Maybe that's the devil's plan.
It is the devil's plan.
Because think about it. He was an angel giving everything.
I told you I want to read this story. If I were the devil.
The devil, exactly.
With Paul Harvey, 1965.
Dog. Just think about it. As an angel, bro, he was the most beautiful. He was given. God gave him everything he needed, and it wasn't enough.
Everything except what was God's.
Exactly. There's a limit.
But what God has is yours. You just have a limit to.
He was in heaven with God, bro, and he had everything he could have wanted. Like you said, these kids, like. Maybe that's the plan of him, bro.
Dude,
that's crazy. He had everything he wanted, but
like I said, this story. More. It reminds me of If I Were the Devil, by Paul Harvey. If I Were the Devil, written in 1965.
Right.
And it's come to pass today,
And it's still relevant.
All of it. But yeah, it was a good story. But it does remind me of If I Were the Devil, which is, of course, what we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's the manipulation.
Yes. So, shoot, man, with that being said, in my closing thoughts, I just say be wary, because you never know, man. The devil might be behind you trying to manipulate you.
Who's that knocking? Is it Jesus? Jesus don't usually knock.
What the hell are you talking about?
You know, Jesus will wake you up at 3 a.m.
You feel me?
And you're like, why did I wake up? Well, I got to go pee. And then you go back to sleep. But God woke you up at 3 so you can talk to him, you know.
So, man, before we get out of here, man, you got any final thoughts you want to talk about?
I just appreciate the people. I do apologize. My nephew's a big YouTuber. I'm not. And apparently there's been some comments made that I haven't responded to. And I promise this week I'm going to start looking into the my YouTube page, YouTube page, and responding. I do apologize. We love comments.
Yeah, for sure,
you know, especially like on this one right here. If y'all believe in the devil or don't believe in the devil or have any words of advice for us or words of encouragement to other people, say, hey, you know, this is how we. What is that called? A testimony.
Yeah. I mean,
facts. You know. Some little testimonies get people out of their
struggles,
you know. So, but thank y'all so much. I appreciate everything that y'all do for us. You know, the likes, you know, they keep going up and up, and we enjoy it.
For real, man, we really do appreciate it, man. Y'all go hard for us, and yeah, for sure, man. Leave us a comment. Tell me what y'all think of today's episode.
Right.
You know, today's episode wasn't to scare you about the devil. Man, I don't care about the devil.
Yeah.
Man.
But he's real.
But you know.
Well, in our eyes.
You know, like for us, we believe in, you know, the spiritual realm and stuff. So it's like, it's just a little scary story, man. The freaky, man, we're getting ready because spooky season's around the corner.
What are we going to do this year?
Man, I don't even know. I got an idea that I'm going to tell you about.
Okay.
But shoot. Man, thank y'all for joining us today, though, man. We hope y'all enjoyed today's content. And like I said, if y'all did enjoy it, man, join the Late Night family. We love having more members join. And hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe, man. And we really do appreciate it. And thank y'all for sticking around for another exciting episode of Late Night Conversations with Uncle Nephew. And until next week.
Peace.
Peace.